Matthew.
Yep.
Right? I got it right this time. You're number 2, because there's no number 1. I guess it's you. So come on up.
We're so bad.
We're pretty informal, as you can probably tell. But we have a good time. A ukulele, I'm so impressed. No, I mean it. It's really great. He always has good music for us.
Ladies and eagles, storms and cranes came tumbling down from heaven when the clouds tore apart. And I was a boy, probably in love with the girl, and had her and I been together, where the sky would still probably be grey, massively concrete, a sheet of unending persuasion, applied with purpose and care. And I remember the day in a field near home, my horse and cat would play in and out, jumping on the grass and gravel. As far as I could see, nowhere was there to go. I didn't want to leave, I didn't need to, then I was sick and old. A trick of fate, I didn't think it could happen to me. The lights stopped and memories began to rain. The second one I just wrote yesterday, but I really want to sing it, so it's like really rough and horrible, I think. I don't actually know yet. I'll find out if I can read these things. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to call this one. Guess I could say Riverside Drive. Buddy knows that place, I guess, but yeah. Okay, I grew up there. Riverside. This is hard. Good position. Okay. I sing you? What should I sing to you? Now that we share an honest, distant atmosphere, there was this place I knew, Riverside Drive, the coldest waters you'd ever swam in your life. Frankly, to me, it doesn't make much sense to tell anyone now, but I feel the light burning inside, I think I'd like to share. And I was a devil then, of a different kind from you here now. Blood was on my skin, and I made for quite the petty thief. me used to break apart as many children. And I was cracked like a ball in the concrete. My own actions shred my wicked heart. And each pulse that kicked through the slips of me splattered happiness on the red wall of my chest. I blacked out of love and laughter before I was a man. Yes, I've died twice now. Once the death of one I loved before I ever bore any sort of pain. I became as empty as her eyes, as empty as a smile on the brain. A second dead, caught by surprise. Strange the things you notice in another. The picture on your person that they leave behind. Isn't that strange? News comes along that ain't another gave into life and accepted to let it be. The same black thing that you need reaches into your hell to burn out the flames that torch your precious photo. It's strange when you die and then you realize you're in love with the dead. It's strange when you die and then you realize you're in love with the dead. Oh, it's strange when you die and then you realize you're in love with the dead. This is the only two I want to play.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
We have spare pens. Frank, you are next. Frank, listen.
How can I be next? I put myself down forward.
I know, and I tell you, I'm going to start from the bottom next time.
Imagine me as an old woman talking to her adult granddaughter, middle 20th century or so. And let's see here. As a child, we called her Witch, whispering the words while hidden behind mounds of hay. Jenny said the witch could cast spells and had a real cauldron. I told of grandfather's brother who did bad things I wasn't allowed to hear about. She had charmed him. Mabel had seen her up close, witch's warts and all. Not long after, Mother and I called on her for a visit, and there in her yard for all to see was a giant pot, and it was warm too. Not hell hot, as Pappy would say, but I could imagine hell all the same. As Mother walked back to the wagon, two strong, gnarled hands lifted me. The cauldron was half filled with blood red, thick and slick on top. "It's good today," the witch croaked. "You can see it crawl the sides. Haven't seen anything that perfect in years." I closed my eyes and prayed and then felt my body being lowered. I expected the hot sting of witch's brew, but kept sliding till curled toes touched ground. There stood Mother, in her arms a new bolt of muslin that slid into the cauldron. She and the witch talked a spell while the pot was stirred. After a half hour or so, I saw my first magic ever. With a groan, Mother and the witch reached big sticks into the pot, and the muslin was now deep, deep wine red. The cauldron's contents, I was shown, had expired to clear water. The bolt was washed in a trough, laid out to dry, and after a few days returned to us. A dyer's work, it goes without saying, is ever and anon dulling, and replaced with newly dyed bolts and skeins and bags of wool. It is a living work, forever changing till the dyer herself has expired. While I am not a dyer, there is one thing I can give to you, granddaughter, and your newborn child. This quilt will not last forever, but will outlive me. I trust its memories will last longer still. For years, your family will find comfort under this checkerboard of baby blue linen and faded pink cotton.
And I can see her with a black hat.
Yes. I'm sure I have not had a chance to read that to Moira. I've looked for a chance to, but I've never had the poem and Moira in the same room at the same time. So, and I'm sure she would appreciate it.
I'm sure she would.
I don't know, if you did, there might be dire consequences.
And I got two new poems here. One of them I know that two of you in the room have heard, and it moved to the big book now.
Oh.
This is Black on White. Black on white, fluttering across the snow of a vacant lot in earliest spring. A raven, panicked and panting, left wing trailing alongside while my traffic light changed. I returned later and followed the sound of mobbing crows to an old woodpile where the raven had found a little shelter. It bumped and bumped against the cordwood as I grabbed its neck and pulled it to my chest. At home, we wrapped the wing, feathers dulled and frayed, with white tape and slid it into a cat carrier and left a little tin of dog food. That evening, we listened to the tap, tap, tap while we ate our own supper. 2 days later, it was dead. Thick black bill still shining, quarter covered with forward-facing feathers in front of still eyes. It felt smaller, I suppose, and I pulled it to me without resistance. I gave it its own air burial atop the brush pile among the cedars, where the fox would be sure to find it, and left as the snow fell, white on black. And one more. This is my newest. And kind of imagining, looking ahead to the old federal building grounds when they get around to re-landscaping and start planting their trees and stuff. And that's where this one came from. When I was young, the trees had signs. Some did, at least, at the park, or the marina, or in front of the elementary school. And the school had a sign too, with big black letters and a concrete base where we would play tag, or stuff our shoes reaching for the top when the aides weren't watching. They wanted us on flat concrete, or flat paved blacktop fresh from last fall when dusty men filled the trench dug out for the sewer line, replacing old with new, big enough for us to crawl through on hands and knees, and laid with care as per the plan from City Hall. But time wears concrete sure as sand, and sure as new lines age and the next by next street are dug and paved, I now know that some trees have names. This one, for instance, in front of City Hall, is named Dave and Lisa. Thank you.
Phil Danso?
Yep.
Dan Still, excuse me.
And still,
Thanks again for the opportunity to have the open mic and enjoyed your poetry. Thank you for coming. If you saw today's paper, the lead story was about the St. Mary's River and the pollution that's ongoing, I guess you could say. And so this poem is about the St. Mary's. It's called Drift, and there are a couple of references that I do need to explain. There are two Native American gods, water gods, that are mentioned in the poem. And one, I ask your forgiveness when I try to pronounce it because it's really difficult. The other one is easy, it's Kitchi Manitou, no Ojibwe god. There's also a reference in the poem to Freighter, American Integrity. So the poem is called Drift. Lucretius writes that the soul bears the finest and smoothest atoms. But what of that boy who drowned at 4 Mile Beach, 4 years gone now? He couldn't swim, but would that have mattered in the current swerve that took him down? Was it the dreaded underwater panther, Mijid Bizwe, dragging him into the path of souls, dispersing him later among the deep currents, Kitchi Manitou nudging him to the surface, eddied and spiraled into a soft night sky? Epicurus writes that death is nothing to us, since when we are, death has not come, and when death has come, we are not. So I push off from Rotary Park, glad for drift, away from the absolutes of ground, of heat, of words that echo like whispers in a void. My river kayak slices southeast, coming fast on island number 1 as I lean into first strokes, seeking a proper river-born rhythm, mindless, artless, necessary as breath. A slight chop, sun allied to bow, paddles dip and drip in blue-green song. Riverside's houses slip by on the south, island number 2 glides close on the north. Eliot writes, I do not know much about gods, but I think that the river is a strong brown god, sullen, untamed, intractable. But this river takes a teal-green turn to the wider channel, Sugar Island maples and birches front lit in heat. The ribbon of river widens to a tapestry of silver northwest wind and water. Here is another river, wilder, colder, deeper, channeling 3-story freighters, silent as stones, displacing all gods, seeking release in Huron's wide-boned coast. But Gandhi said that God has no religion. And did you know there's another St. Mary's River, another border water, rising in Georgia swamp, flowing east across Florida, sweeping its gods to the sea? Someday I'll kayak that sister river with her heated kindred gods, listen to her drift, her chop, her talk of the dead. The wind lifts, warm at my back. I slide by the beacon with that mother osprey evil-eyeing me coming and going as I turn back into the chop. Now I dig into the strokes, thinking too much, working too hard, like a voyageur portaging the weight of this gift. Nietzsche asks, is man only a blunder of God, or God only a blunder of man? I cut quickly across the channel to hug the Sugar Island shore, sun on my back, wind in my face, still digging into the chop. Bouncing west, easier to track a line into the wind. Shadows edge the shore. I cup my hand in the river and it's still cold, even in late summer. Scraping through shallows, I enter the inlet between islands number 1 and 2, seeking an easier path. It's a different river, close, isolate shores, pines shading sweep, driftwood entwining banks in riotous brocade. It's a sadder river, too, a century and more of chromium carbide waiting the bed, tannery leavings, wasted overflow roiling the waters, stunning steelhead, pike, walleye, bass. Melville writes, yes, as everyone knows, meditation and water are wedded forever. 2 hours on the river is not enough to shed scales from my eyes, from my heart. My fine and smooth atoms hum their song, silenced by the Sugar Island ferries crossing Blair. American integrity heads southbound or downbound. At dusk, the river quiets. The wind drops into currents. Manitous nestle deeper in muck. Perhaps they'll rise in dark, rustling the waters as they sweep across the channel. Or perhaps they'll dig deeper, sleep longer in this colder year, remapping the path of souls, waiting in silence to be reborn on the river.
Okay, Ed Harmon.
The first one I'm going to start off with is entitled Judgment, Man of War. And the War of 1812, if you recall, definitely set the stage for us to become an emerging nation. And when you think about it, we only had about several men of war. The Constitution, right? That was one of them. Can you name the other 6? Think about that. Only 7 of those men of war, with only about 300 men on board each one. That's only about 2,000 individuals who we are really indebted to for the emergence of this nation. And I always write this poem in red to commemorate your loss of life and blood. Judgment, man of war. Splinters screwing minds and bodies and souls. Fullicides concussion the ears, bleeding rivulets of pain. Buckets of blood carrying flotsam and jetsam of dismemberment and debris along the red-painted planking, already jammed, blocked scuppers, whilst the stench of spent powder invades and numbs the nose, quickening water from the eyes and the strugglers, swearing, shouting, praying, sweating, grunting, suffering, with nowhere to go and nowhere to hide or to die. And the Iron Man's eyes leaked the salt smoked water mixed with his blood and sweat to the wooden ship's decks, awash in death, agony, the dying and the dead. And amid it all, the fiery hell, the first tears are shed from the bleeding ships and the brave sailors, as the ocean shudders, contorts and strains to heave up the birth of the young new nation, forever afterward, for all the world to wonder what will be. That one was in October 1991. We'll lighten it up a little bit here for you. For all of you that have wondered what happened since we had somebody else take over the power plant down here. This one is the Ode to It All, or Why is Our Electric Bill So High? We have amtsies, ohmsies, wattsies, and voltsies. All are what make the world go around. Without the latter, nothing else much would matter, and without the third, things would be absurd, and without the second, time would stand still, and the first just couldn't occur. Oh, where would we be? And, save for an electrical circuit, we'd still be with candles or oil lanterns. And what a quirk that would be, for we just properly couldn't see. So if we didn't have amtsies, ohmsies, and wattsies, and voltsies, I wouldn't know you, and you wouldn't know me, and nothing else simply could be. Okay, let's see what else have we got here. This is what's going to happen when we're no longer here. This is entitled The Meek Inheritance, the Millennium. They were here millenniums before us, the animals, the beasts alike, the flowers, the fauna, the smallest threads of the roots of time. Towering trunks, mute testimony to our conflicts among ourselves and against them, the meek, assaulting them as we did ourselves, as well as all animal kingdoms, with our axe and our knives and our saws and our guns, working against them and ourselves with our machines, and yet we saw and do not see, while ultimately the earth will lie green and blue again, pure, once we are all gone. Man and beast alike will lie beneath the rocks, the soils and the seas, at the foot of the roots, as the flowers and the fauna once again inherit the earth. The righteous will reign again, as it was in the beginning, and it will be right that we are gone. Now, I don't know how many more you want here.
Thank you. Pretty good.
A lot of here we could share with you.
Thank you very
We
much.
have similar lines of thought.
All right. I'd like to thank all of our open mic poets. I'd especially like to thank Dion. Thank you for coming out tonight.